The draining reason your body hides the same collapse mechanism that erased a 2,000-year-old lake from Russia in a single night. And in 2005, the village outside Nizhny Novgorod woke up, walked to the shore, and found nothing but mud and gasping fish. No storm, no drought, no warning. The water was simply gone, and the ground beneath your feet holds the same secret right now. Right now, somewhere under your town, there is a cavity, not a crack, not a gap. A hollow space the width of a house, carved by water you will never see and rock you will never touch. It has been growing for decades, maybe longer. And the only thing standing between your neighborhood and a 40-foot drop is a ceiling of soil so thin that the pressure of a single passing truck is enough to punch through it. Scientists call it a collapsed sinkhole. But that name doesn't capture what happens to everything sitting on top of it when it finally gives. You don't fall slowly, you disappear. That is what happened to the lake. In May 2005, residents near Bolshoy Sharap noticed something wrong with the sound of their lake. It was quiet, too quiet. By morning, the entire body of water, 200 meters wide, holding millions of gallons, had been swallowed by the earth. What geologists found was a sinkhole network, a web of underground channels that had been pulling water downward for years without anyone knowing. The lake hadn't evaporated. It hadn't been diverted. It had drained straight down through a fracture in the limestone beneath it, the way water drains from a bathtub when you pull the plug. Except the plug had been there the entire time, and it had been pulling the whole time. The water was already disappearing before anyone alive in that village was born. The event they witnessed in 48 hours was just the final second of a process that had been running for 1,000 years. Here is what stops most people when they hear this story. They assume it's a Russian problem, a geological fluke that couldn't happen where they live. But here is the number that should stay with you. 40% of the continental United States sits on karst terrain. That is the same porous, dissolving, cavity-building limestone that swallowed that lake. Florida, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, large sections of Pennsylvania and Virginia. And beneath those states, right now, the same slow process is running. Water seeping through hairline fractures. Carbonic acid dissolving calcium. Chambers forming in total darkness with zero surface evidence until the ceiling is one rain event away from giving. The lake disappearing in Russia wasn't unusual. It was a preview. The geological term is hypogenic karstification, and it is not the kind of sinkhole story you have heard before. Surface sinkholes form from above, rainwater acidifies and eats downward. You can sometimes see the warning signs, cracks in the soil, depressions, dying vegetation around the edges. But hypogenic systems form from below, fed by pressurized groundwater moving upward through the rock, carving chambers that have no surface expression at all. None. The ground above them looks completely normal, healthy, solid, until the moment it isn't. In 1981, a sinkhole in Winter Park, Florida opened beneath a house, a car dealership, and a public pool in under 24 hours. It swallowed everything before anyone had time to react. In 2013, a man in Seffner, Florida went to bed and the earth opened beneath his bedroom in the middle of the night. By the time anyone reached him, the ground had closed again, with him inside it. But what the Russian lake revealed is something more unsettling than the sinkholes you see on the news. Those are events, incidents, discrete emergencies. The lake disappearing was different. It showed that the collapse threshold, the moment when a chamber becomes large enough to consume an entire body of water, can arrive with zero warning on an ordinary morning in a place where people had lived for generations without a single sign. And now scientists are finding these chambers beneath populated areas, not rural zones, not geological outliers. In 2019, ground-penetrating radar surveys beneath cities in the American Southeast revealed subsurface void networks larger than anything previously mapped. Some of them sit under highways, some under residential neighborhoods. The radar doesn't lie. The cavities are there, they are actively growing, and the surface above them shows nothing, no cracking, no settling, no evidence you would recognize as a threat. The Russian lake was visible. You could watch the shoreline shrink and know something was wrong. That is the version of this story that ends with confused villagers standing in mud. The version that ends differently is the one where the cavity sits under something with no water line to watch recede. Here is what no geologist will say on television. The surveys exist, the data exists, and in multiple cases, municipalities have been quietly notified about subsurface void networks beneath their infrastructure. Some of them told residents, most did not. Because there is no protocol for that conversation. There is no evacuation plan for a slow, invisible collapse. So ask yourself this. If the village in Russia had received a warning 1 year before the lake vanished, would anyone have moved?